When Bill Cosby's brother Russell sought help for his dyslexia, he went to Landmark College in Putney, Vermont. It was there that he met teacher Carolyn Olivier. Carolyn is co-author of the book entitled Learning to Learn, which outlines ways to teach every child. We say the word dyslexia, and everybody gets the idea that it's a learning disorder. But explain to us exactly what dyslexia is and how it affects people.
Well, inside, we're all as different as we are outside. Our eyes, our hair, our skin, all shows enormous variation. That's what makes human beings such a rich and wonderful resource. And we're the same inside. And the way we learn all different things. For example, the way we listen to sounds, the way we categorize them, the way we attach meaning to them. All of those things are done differently in everyone. And for those people who have a particular difficulty in learning some aspect of language, and often it's listening to the sounds within words and the very early things that happen as you start to learn language, often that's seen in young children with dyslexia.
So it's just a bit different. I know that during the commercial, Bill, you were saying that sometimes it's even in answering the telephone. What did you mean by that? Is that an example for Russell? Or?
Her example, what you hear, and then what the connection is, that synapse. Sometimes there's a drop-off, and you don't get it all. Or the fact that you have your short-term memory isn't working.
Kids, I want you to get involved in this too, so people can understand why it's important that we care about this. How does it affect your life when you have to, when people don't understand your disability, your learning difference, let's say. Let's make it positive. Instead of saying disability, folks, on the Rolonda Show, we're going to say your learning difference. When people, thank you, when people don't get it, what does that do to your life, affect you when people don't recognize your difference?
Well, it'll make you go into your own private shell, because it comes to be a point where you get tired of hearing that you're too slow, because you're trying to figure out why does it take you so long, because you don't know.
Scott, I see you shaking your head there. Can you relate to what Russell said there?
Yeah.
Tell me a bit.
Well, when somebody doesn't notice what my disability is.
Your difference.
Yeah, my difference. I wish, just say if I was in my normal school at Calhoun and no one noticed and I was having trouble, I wish they would so they could help me.
This seems to be touching your heart a bit. That's okay, because you know something, there are a lot of other kids who are dependent on you to talk out for them.
But the problem is that we don't really want it to be something that we can touch with him. It's more fun for us to call him dumb in the competitive sense. Competitive. That this is the mainstream. If you don't keep up, then you're dumb, and I don't want you to catch up.
But I don't want him, I mean, he's got tears in his eyes, and we've all been to school and been called something. Believe me, hon, believe me. Talk to me a little bit about what you're feeling.
Yeah, it makes me feel angry. When this kid called me stupid at school and everything, like he said, you're really stupid, you won't never catch up to me, with reading, like that.
Yeah, you know something? Albert Einstein had dyslexia too. Did you know that Leonardo da Vinci had dyslexia too?
No, I didn't.
You didn't know that, did you? See, you learned something on the Rolonda Show.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to meet Scott and Clark's moms next and see how they're dealing with it. Maybe some words for your own family. Stay with us. Isn't that amazing? We were just talking about some of the famous people in life who have suffered from dyslexia. These were folks before we had programs and landmark colleges to deal with this, and Bill Cosby's and Russell Cosby's and Clark to come up here and talk with us about this. Let me introduce you to Scott and Clark's moms here. And Eileen, I understand that you are also dyslexic.
Yes,
is that right?
Yes, I am.
Is dyslexia hereditary?
It is. There's 3 of us in my family of 8. And my mother, a teeny bitch, don't watch Mom.
But you're talking 3 generations.
That we know of.
Yeah. Did the generations have dealt with the issue very differently? Have you noticed a difference between how you were dealt with as a kid and your own son?
Like Russell, I mean, I was just kind of like dumb or wasn't trying hard enough, and I graduated high school last year in independent study in art. I mean, I've never done anything for a living that I had to write. I'm a painter and a chef. So you just kind of put things together. You figure out what you can do.
You find your own way. But you got to a point where you were angry with how the system was working.
Well, the biggest problem is the federal government doesn't recognize dyslexia on the elementary school level. So you have to fight really hard. I had to bring a couple of suits against the Board of Education to get them funded. And I've paid otherwise private school up until this year. Wow. I finally got funding.
As a parent, what is it like going through this? Did it take you a long time to recognize the difference that your child had in learning?
Well, it is difficult initially. When you come to I knew Scott had a problem with reading. Early on, his teachers had said there's a difficulty with symbol recognition, which means like letters of the alphabet, he couldn't put it together. Initially, you sort of don't want to accept it. You can't believe that your child isn't like every other child, but I knew there was a problem, and the sooner I came to realize it and try to help him, the better it was. So I had to get into action.
Yeah, you had to learn a lot, too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I studied a lot. I read loads of books, and I realized that I had to be my son's advocate. There was, he was too young at this point to be his own advocate. He will learn as he gets older. But I really had to get out there and fight for him to get what he needed.
Coming up, we're going to meet a man who was so frustrated by dyslexia, he dropped out of school. So how in the world did this guy turn out to be the manager of a multi-million-dollar firm? Well, we're going to find out right after this. God, you look great, girl. Why don't you introduce yourself? You are at Landmark College, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
My name is Fernando Shabaznia.
Okay.
And I'm a second-year student at Landmark.
What would it take us to be more sensitive to that? How can we better recognize that there's a child who might need help, or not even a child, it may be a coworker that we might need to help? How do you do that? How do you recognize it? Is it that easy?
Well, there's many different things, and you have to look at each individual. But one thing that I admitted to my parents, and we had a good laugh at it, is that I always came up with some illness during, you know, like spelling tests. Throughout school, I was chronically ill. and there's no doctor that could diagnose exactly what I had. It was just always something
always
different. Always trying to miss school, you know, because that's a place where you just get bombarded.
It's called testitis.
Yes.
Let's talk about some other tips for parents. Any others that you can think of? Parents, you may have some. Students, you may have some. Hand up for me.
I think one of the most difficult things about having dyslexia is that it's not a visual disability. It's not like with someone who has cerebral palsy or Down syndrome or something like that. It's not something that you can look at and say, oh, you look dyslexic. You know, that doesn't happen. And that's what's so frustrating going through the school system, is my mom knew when I was 6 years old that something was wrong with me, and the school's like, nothing's wrong with her, she's just lazy.
Also, you're looking at kids or people who appear to be they're Caucasian, middle income. Now let's go to a place of Latinos, African Americans, Asian Americans, lower economic, and you see kids, now they're already supposed to be dumb, and they're already supposed to be lazy. Now you have teachers who come into the system who already know what these kids are already supposed to be. How many, and it's not just black, Latino, Asian, quote-unquote minority. When you go back in history, French on French, lower economic versus the upper class, royalty, you will find that poor people are always put in some situation where they are loud and wrong, and their bodies are the only things that they can give up to keep and stay in the position they're in. And education is laughed at. Ho ho, what do you want to learn for? I mean, the first weapon of anti-slavery is to learn to read.
That's right. Stop right there for a moment. This is a man who is dyslexic who became a great student. I'm going to let you talk in a minute, but wait. And this man became a multi-million-dollar businessman. We're going to talk to them right after this.
Who said anything about lending you money?
I don't get it.
I said no problem, because you already missed the movie. We were just coming out.